Can you like
It's
not
been
talk for
on
once?
track,
I
man.
can't drive at this pace and engine and like coach you at the same time. I don't really care about thermo.
The Hudson Hornet, winner in Week 5 in Brazil, and he'll extend his Drivers' Championship lead.
But Jack Pemberton, maybe he knows or sees something we don't.
Down the back straightaway, Jack Pemberton up the the right side of Joel Guron. Jack Pemberton into the lead, but your race winner for the Singapore Grand Prix, Jack Pemberton, comes across the line.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Week 6 of the Zoom Racing League's Division 1 race. Here we are in Spa-Francorchamps for the 6th race of the season and following up on all the action that we had in Brazil last week. There's a ton of battles going on up and down the grid. 19 turns here in Belgium, 3 DRS zones, 2 rather, sorry. And we are getting ready to go racing. Classic track just confirmed, going to be around for 2023. Everybody is happy about that. Moving into the constructor standings, I'm your host, Buffalo Trace. I'm joined today by John Ranger. John, standings are starting to shuffle up, man. What do you got in front of you?
Good evening, everybody. Absolutely. When you look at the driver standings, we're looking at a two-way battle. So obviously Hudson Poole with his what I believe is his 4th victory in a row, running away out there with the points. He's standing at 177 points in P1. Then it's starting to get a little bit tighter there. We're seeing Ian Krieger, who had a great performance in Brazil last weekend. We'll see what he can do tonight. He's sitting at 125, followed closely by Jeffrey Lawler in P3 with the Aston Martin. 114, and then it gets a little bit tighter. Jason Pelter and dramatic P4 in Brazil is now taking P4 and 88 points. We have Luke Locklear, who absolutely terrible race for Alpine. We'll talk about that in a minute. Looking at the constructors, who eventually DNF made no points, dropped down a position. He's right behind him in 86 points, so he's going to be looking to be coming back there. So we're having a three-way battle. There's Major Castleman, who's a little bit behind, just behind luckily for the Alpine at 79. Eric Cavallo, who's got the 3rd position podium in P7. And so on and so forth. A lot of drivers who haven't been racing a lot. That's basically your main drivers. Duncan McCamick, who's a bit of a hit and miss so far this season. He's had some good positions and other races that have been a little bit not so great, but he's had a really good race in Brazil, starting from the back of the pack and ending with 20 points there. So he's climbing up slowly and surely, and he could possibly gain some more positions. When we take a second and we look into the constructors championship, Red Bull is sitting fairly comfortably in P1 there. Ferrari last weekend was sitting in P4, is now sitting in P2, 10 points ahead of Aston Martin. So basically, there's been a switch between Ferrari and Alpine. Alpine last weekend was one of the worst weekends they've had ever in D1. They had a DNF and another driver finished with only 6 points. That's cost them a lot in the Constructors' Championship right now. They're sitting 10 points, or 9 points behind, I should say, behind Aston Martin P4 at 165. So they'll be looking to redeem themselves, and there's a lot of pressure on them. Shout out to McLaren. McLaren had a great performance out there in P5 so far last weekend in Brazil. They're followed. There's only 3 points separating them and Mercedes. I think it's going to be a battle for the rest of the season between them two. Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Haas, and Williams are closing down the top 10 there. Also, an interesting battle between AlphaTauri, Haas, and Williams, who are finishing out 8, 9, 10. There's only 3 points that separate AlphaTauri and Williams, and Haas is smack in the middle. So there's battles all over and all around the track, as already our drivers are starting to put in qualifying laps.
Yeah, they're already started. We got a couple times on the board, and there are battles up and down in constructors, not only here in Division One, but also Divisions 2, 3, and 4. A lot of shuffling going on, and a lot of action, kind of all around. So first 4 times are on the board. Your provisional pole sitter right now is Eric Perez with a 1:43.1 in that Williams. Aaron Altmaier was hot behind him. However, there's a 6/10 gap right now between P1 and P2. But John, we got a lot of quality left to go, right? There's going to be track evolution. There's going to be a lot that kind of goes into these laps moving in. I'm on here with Cal as he looks to set his time. Cal, a reserve driver, currently leading the standings in Division 3. He came in, reserve D2, had a very good race up till the end there, and is now reserving D1. Where does he put it? P2 with a 1:43.2. He's 200ths off Division 1 pole right now. I mean, Cal's going to be making the jump.
Yeah, I think there was a discussion. Cal continues driving. I think we just saw the Haas of
There was a Haas around.
Zarki, yeah, just parked there in the middle of the road there. But as I was saying, Cal is he's got some pace. He's definitely got some pace, and it was spoken about him during our broadcast in Division 2, how he wants to prove himself, and I think he puts a lot of practice during the week, and you know he's on a roll now. He's just doing what he's got to do in Division 3. He's doing what he's got to do in Division 2. He's showing everybody that he's got some pace. He's definitely a guy that's looking. He's targeted the Division 1, and I think he's going to be getting a seat eventually for next season.
Yeah, I think so too. I just got interesting news from the paddock, John, as we watch Maxime Beaulieu go in for his first heater. He'll finish here as he approaches bus stop and try to get competitive time. Interesting information from the paddock, John. Dry quali mixed conditions race. So I wonder how the setup is going to fare, right? I mean, kind of time-wise, I was expecting maybe to see a little bit more in the 142s. At Maxime puts in a 143.3, good enough for P5. His teammate Era Carvalho puts in a 143.2. So the Merc's looking good so far with a P4 and a P5, but setup's going to be really tricky here with a mixed conditions race and a fully dry quali. You know, the positions are really important, but they got to balance it for the race.
Yeah, having raced in Division 2, we had a pouring rain in the beginning of qualies, so most people qualify with their dry setup in the pouring rain, and that was quite tricky as well. Now, this is an opposite situation where we're having dry weather for the qualies, but mixed conditions, and now how mixed up is it going to be? Are we expecting rain right off the bat, or rain up right off towards the end? You know, that's going to play a little bit in the strategies. And already that this is a track where some drivers prefer maybe a little higher downforce for the middle sectors and gaining their track time there. Others will go for low downforce to go up Eau Rouge and Aradzio and getting all the best positions there. Now throwing some rain in there, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of drivers are talking to engineers right now and wondering what's the strategy and how they should approach this whole situation. Honestly, this one's a kind of roll of the dice so far.
It really is. I mean, it's how low do you dare to go with the downforce to try to get those passing opportunities, right? We got a yellow in Sector 1. It looks like it might be just Aston Martin moving over. I'm on with Red Potato, who's currently reserving in the Alpine. Red Potato has been starting to make his presence known here, not only in Division 1, but also Division 2. So he's able to reserve in both. He was in your race last night, John. And I remember last week in D1, he kind of put on a show, and he was up with the front runners for a long time. He's just at a purple Sector 2 as he looks to put in, this will be his first heater of the session.
Yeah, let's not forget in Brazil last weekend, he kind of stunned everybody by getting pole position right in front of Hudson Poole. Unfortunately, down in turn 2, down the San Estes, he didn't have so much of a great start.
Right.
Hudson Poole ran away with it. Yeah, he's probably looking to not make that same mistake a second time, so we'll see. He's definitely got a lot of pace. He's a bit of a newcomer to the league, and so far he's very impressive. Last weekend he was in the McLaren, if I believe, and now he's in the Alpine, and Alpine needs a great weekend for them. And as I spoke earlier about the constructors and the driver points, so we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, he's just put in a 144.2. I think he's probably got a little bit more in the tank than that, so I'm looking for Red Potato to set out another heater and look to probably get in the top 10. Right now, I'm currently on with Alfa Romeo driver Jack Pemberton. We saw the amazing tribute video kind of earlier in the broadcast. Jack's been with ZRL since I think pretty much its inception, right? It was I think it was called a Reddit Grand Prix. It was before my time, maybe kind of around your time, John. But this is going to be Jack's last race with us for the time being. He's starting school. Will kind of may be able to be in a reserve role here and there, but as far as his full-time seat, he'll be out for a while. I mean, you've raced with Jack plenty of times.
Yeah, when I first joined the league, let's say already 4, if not 5 seasons ago. So I ended up getting out there in Division 1 a couple times and reserving. And Jack at that time was in the Aston Martin. He was absolutely flying, such a clean driver too. I've had multiple really wheel-to-wheel races with that guy, and he's really a class act too. I had him as a teammate as well.
Oh, and he spins
speaking
out.
of
Rough
double,
start.
Yeah,
Rough start in his first
absolutely.
quali.
Broadcast was cursed. That's always happening there. I don't think he's got any damage in his fronts, and he's got plenty of time to catch it up. And that's the kind of guy that Jack is, right? He's gonna have a spin off, but he's gonna brush his shoulders and keep on going, and he's gonna show everybody that he's still got a lot of pace out there. So, yeah, best of luck to him for his real life commitments, and I'm sure ZRL is gonna be waiting for him with open arms whenever he's gonna be back to race with us.
Yeah, I'm currently on with his teammate for today, Atlas. Atlas with the final reserve, and he spins out at the same spot that Jack Pemberton did. So I don't know if they're experimenting with some similar setups, but they spun out at the same time, and he's currently in P11, and he's looking for a clean spot to jump on track and improve. But this track can be slippery at times. I feel like, John, like the curves are kind of 50-50, right? You got some you can mount, you got some you can plant and accelerate and brake on and not worry about it. And then you got some where if you touch it, you're just gonna go flying, and it'll ruin your lap and it could ruin your race.
Most definitely. We just saw 12 Alfa Romeo drivers spinning out there. That is exactly the spot where I myself ruined my race last night in Division 2. I was taking it easy most of the race, and as you mentioned, you try to be careful, and this is a long track, right? You don't want to find yourself in that spot and having damage on your wing. It just slows you down for so long. It's not a very long track, so you want to be. I played it the careful game. I drove a little bit more conservatively. I'm curious to see how these guys are going to go, because we saw a lot of spin outs, especially qualifying last week in Brazil, and these guys are really pushing and giving it their all. Speaking of pushing and giving them their all, Calge is the first driver to push times into a sub 142. He's got pole position at 142.8 so far.
Yeah, he's the 142.8s. I was on with Thermos. He sent his second heater, and he's pretty close. He's a 143.1. And yeah, those Alpines really need a nice race. And now his teammate for today, I believe it's Barney Goatmere. No, he's not reserving for it. Oh, it's Red Potato. That's right. We were on with Red Potato, who said there he is. That's kind of the time we were expecting from him. That's a 143.0 for Red Potato. And if I'm Thermo, I'm looking at that with kind of a sigh of relief. Because like we were alluding to earlier in the broadcast, if there's any team that needs a good race tonight here in D1, it's the Alpines.
Yeah, most definitely. And seeing both of the Alpines in the top 4 for now, they're happy about that. Let's not forget about Diego and Aston Martin, who's not set up a time yet. So maybe he's still up in his warm up, I believe, or if he's on his off lap.
He looks a little slow. There's a Mercedes around. I don't know who that was. Maybe that was that Era? Yeah, it is. That's Era. Era's currently in P7, but if he was on a heater now, he'll have to abandon that as he tries to get on the grass and just get out of the way.
Yeah, trying to do the right thing and not be in the way of anybody. He's got no wing left, so that's going to be a slow drive. And, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but, you have damage. You have to take it slow. That's just precious time you're losing by the time you get to the pits. I think Era's only going to have a single chance to pull in a fast lap now. And he's sitting there in P7, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see most drivers increase on their time. Wouldn't be surprised to see multiple drivers in the sub 43s, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of Ferraris out. That's Ian, so he just invalidated his lap. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go around again. Let's hop on with Peter Giordano, and he's also, looks like 7/10 above. So the Ferrari's not really on competitive heaters right now. But yeah, I do think we're going to start to see some more people come out, set, Something more. Let's see where Jack is now. So Jack is on his outlap. He made it through turn 9 clean. He's just got to make it stick in the heater so he can set a competitive time. A couple guys here lining up in the pits. John, this lap, it's probably the longest on the calendar, right? So I think they really have to time their last run. You're only going to get 3 full runs on clean sets of tires here just because of how long the track is. As Gator sets provisional pole, the 142.8.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if he took some risks on the setup. Because, you know, we're used to seeing Gator battle towards the front, but he hasn't really qualified towards the front so far this year. And
So I'm giving us a little happy dance there. He's really proud of his time there.
yeah, that's a great time. I'm on with Josh right now. Jack Pemberton. And see if he can set a representative hot lap here. And his last race in ZRL. Coming into turn 1 and he slides a little bit. You can hear the rear kind of moving a little bit under him. I wonder if he lost a bit of time, but he's got to go. It doesn't really matter. Left row Rouge and Radeon.
We'll do that to you. Be a little bit sleepy on that first corner. We got to really send it through Illusion Radeon right there.
Camel Straight, probably one of the most popular overtaking spots on the track, of course, into turn 7. And this is where he had the problem now.
Section here. Yep.
And he gets through clean. Because that curb on the inside of turn 9, John, you can mount it as he goes a little bit wide here into 10, and he's going to lose some time. Got to make sure you carry as much speed as you can through Puhan. And oh, he goes a little bit left. It's a wonder he didn't invalidate that.
Yeah, if you let that sector, if you just lift off a little bit, the game's gonna be a little lenient and not give you a penalty for it. So you just gotta keep going.
Yeah, heartbreaking zone here into turn 13 and 14 as he starts to come around the end of sector 2. Not the cleanest one so far, but we'll see if he's on pace. He's about a 1/10.5 up on his 144.8, so it still doesn't look like he'll put in a super competitive time here, unless he can carry a lot of speed here through sector 3 and have a crispy bus stop chicane to finish it off.
Absolutely, and there's a minute 20 left to the session here, so the only person who's seemingly staying in the pits is going to be Gator. Everybody else is going for a faster lap.
See what Jack can do. And he improves only a little bit, P17, and I think at this point he may be lucky to stick with that, with Big Mama Frank and Zarky both on outlaps. Big Mama Frank within a 1/10 of Jack. So let's see who's on their last heaters now. I think Thermo may be towards the front of the line. No, he's not. Maybe it's Barney Goatmere. Oh.
Seeing Cal, who's just starting his hot lap here. He's followed by Red Potato behind him, and those two drivers are going to be fighting for poles. And Gator's sitting there in the pit, so he's kind of inviting them to take the pole from them. Cal's and Gator's time are very, very close by. There's only 400 separating both drivers, so Cal's definitely aiming for him.
Eric Perez in the Williams now, currently in P6 with a 143.1. Very strong time here, really close to the 142s, which only 2 drivers have so far cracked. He's going to be the first one of this influx of cars here to cross the line for their last heater. So right on board for Eric for a little bit. Loses a little bit. He's only about half a 10th up on his time. And he had a little moment there. He said a purple sector 2, if that color is correct. And we'll see what Eric can do and get down the line. Oh, there was a yellow back in sector 3. It looks like there may be a Merc around.
Yeah, that's done for Max and Bollier. That's those qualifying over there.
Let's hop back on with Eric as he gets through the bus stop chicane. And he bails out, so he must have not had the time. Let's see where Aaron Altmaier is.
Wow.
He takes it.
142. We're going to see a lot of times being under this 143s here, so he's not going to be the only one.
Yeah, I want to hop on with Cal here, who's currently in P3. He's got a 142.8. Was one of the first drivers to crack the 142s. Barney Goatmere, provisional pole with a 142.7. And Barney continues his run of showing incredible pace at the highest levels. Great for Barney. Cal crosses the line. He'll stay in P4. Lost it by 0.3. Here's Dago. Dago has not sent a representative left. Red Potato takes vertical pole with a 142.3. Here's Dago. This is his one and only hot lap. Where is he going to fall? He takes P2 with a 142.4. Let's hop in with Peter Giordano here, the Ferrari in the bus stop chicane. Ian Krieger has retired from the session. He'll stay in P11 at best. Peter Giordano looking to improve on P13, and he does. He's P11 with a 143.1.
Very, very interesting lineup so far, and we're curious to see which setups are the ones with the downforce and which ones are the ones that are with the reduced downforce. We have so far. I think that's actually everybody. Yeah, that's everybody.
That's it.
Hudson Pool, that's in P3 now. So, wow, great performance once again by the two Aston Martins. Hopefully, they don't have a situation like they had last weekend in Brazil with the jump starts there. Kudos to Barney. I mean, Williams got to be absolutely proud of this pace. And Barney, I've raced him in Division 2, and he was doing great during that race too. And
yeah.
I think he really wanted to, I think he had a little bit of a spin out at some point or something, if I'm not mistaken, and wanted to redeem himself. So P4 Division 1, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, he's super quick. And now we've seen it in qualifying. I mean, this is probably his best qualifying, I think, of the season that I recall. And he's always had the race pace too. It's just kind of, he needs to stay clear of incidents, whether it's of his own kind of unforced errors with a spin or something here and there. He doesn't have a lot of them, but they always seem to happen at the worst time, John. And then it's like, you know, he runs top 5 for a little while, and then I think something similar kind of happened in Brazil. He was running up high and then had an incident and had to recover.
Yeah, exactly. I think he had contact with a driver and forced his race and had to change completely the strategy, being a recovery race. So we're gonna see what we're gonna get as in regards to weather in the beginning of the race. If we're gonna be sunny, if we're gonna be under the rain, and what kind of strategies and what kind of tires these guys are gonna go for.
Yeah, Red Potato, Dago, and Hudson Pool round out your top 3. Breath of fresh air for Alpine so far, as you know, they're able to make up for Major Castleman being out today with the pole position. So full points for them. Red Potato gets pole. Thermo was back down in P9, actually. We're not really used to seeing him there. So not really the qualifying session that Thermo wanted to see. And Alpine's going to be looking to push really hard. But I'm looking for Williams to secure some nice points. It'd be nice if they could put the whole race together.
Yeah, was and just so everybody knows, it seems formation lap has been fixed now since the last time we raced. So we're gonna see for the first time this season an entire formation lap.
Yeah, and I think the most important part is now it's up to the drivers themselves to warm up their tires efficiently, right? Before, I think with the broadcast option, you almost started with like 90, right? It was pretty clean,
Yeah.
from what I can remember. So
Yeah, most definitely. They start up. They ended up pushing a fix, if I'm not mistaken, where the tires were pretty warm, so they were in best conditions. And I don't know. We'd have to get maybe a weather update here, but so far we got some nice overcast conditions, and it's going to be super important to put as much heat into those hard tires as possible. Most drivers are going for the hard tires, from what I can see.
yep.
And,
Oh, here we go. Tire data's up, and yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Only about 6 medium tire runners.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the track isn't as warm as during the qualies, you know, so there's some areas, as we've seen during qualies, where some drivers were having some little off moments, and the hard tires could sweep under you at some point. So gotta be careful in the first couple laps.
They're gonna take a lot longer to heat up, I think, in the overcast weather too. Just as you were saying, it's not as warm as it was in the qualifying session. So getting these things up to speed. You know, careful with Eau Rouge. Careful in turn 9. That's where we see a lot of incidents too, and in Puhan as well. If you carry a little bit too much speed and that rear just fishtails just a touch, you're gonna find yourself spinning out. John, who's your driver to watch for today? I think, you know, there's a number that are looking to make a move. Is anyone sticking out at you that you think can really push, make something happen tonight?
You know what? I'm always down for a good Williams story there. So I'm thinking Barney Goatmere with an absolute heat of a lap so far in qualifying. So it's up to him. It's all up to him to grab some places, and the driver in front of him, it's none other than Hudson Poole. So he doesn't he has to be careful not to be intimidated by that, and he's just another driver as anybody else, and try to see if he could go for position there. It's going to be a launch, an intro, a very good launch of this race. It's going to be super important for Barney.
Yeah, I think my driver to watch is actually Boss Man, Duncan McCamick. He was start quali penalty last week, right? Started at the back and ended up getting a P5. Just an outstanding finish, and I wonder if he can kind of build on that momentum, right? And they might need it, right? Hudson looks P3 here as the cars get to the end, and Hudson's on a pole. He won't have a chance really to pull away, I think, with Dago and Red Potato starting in front of him. So it'll be up to Duncan to make sure Red Bull secures as much points as possible from the session.
Yeah, I think Duncan purposely put himself in P14 to pull Max Verstappen tonight, so we'll see what he can do.
That's it. Here, let's ride with our man Barney Goatmere here at the start. Qualified in P4. Top 5 drivers all on hard tires. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 lights out, and away we go. Barney looks like he got a little slow start at the beginning, but now he's back up to speed. He's locked in P4. Top 3 guys have pulled away. There's a McLaren on his left. That's Gator in the medium tires. Gator's going to have a little bit of extra speed. It looks like there's incidents all around and some cautions already. Cal is at the back. Big Mama Frank is at the back. Alex Duarte is at the back. Duncan has lost 1 spot so far as here they go through Eau Rouge for the first time. Barney Goatmere lost 1 spot to Gator, and Hudson's already overtaken Red Potato, who's fallen to P3, and we saw that last week, John. Red Potato was on pole and lost a couple positions at the start.
Yep, he is losing the positions on the Camel Straight there. Oh, he gets bumped by Barney, and Barney's overtaking him on the outside there, and due to that contact, I think we're seeing Red Potato. Maybe his tires aren't up to temp yet, and he's a little bit slow around. I don't think he's got any damage.
Might be trying
is
to
that
nurse
thermal?
those tires a little bit. I heard
just
it
saw thermal.
on my game sound. It looks like it was Thermo.
Yep.
And he's currently bringing up the rear. So tough start for Thermo. Great start for my guys currently in the Alfa Romeo. Atlas up to P9 and Jack Pemberton up to P11. Great start. Let's look at the position changes. Jack is up 7. Atlas is up 6. They lead so far as position changes. Tied with Zarky in P6, who's gone from P20 to P14. We'll watch Jack jostle a little bit with Era as he falls down to P12. Era had a lot of pace coming off a podium in Brazil. Looks really good, and he spins out. Era spun out, coming out of the turn 16, and he's got damage, or he is spun around, and he must have hit his wing there.
Yeah, can confirm. I'm pretty sure he's got damage. I'm going to watch him come around there. Maybe a little bit of damage. Actually, visually, it doesn't look so bad on his front wing, so pretty rather surprisingly. I don't think he's going to be going into pits. We're going to see that in just a second. He's coming up to the chicane there. Thermo, unfortunately for him, I think the pressure got to him and spun it around. So we've already seen 3 drivers spinning it around. So
Yeah,
they want
he's
to
going to
push
have...
hard, and that's Division 1 for them. You got to be careful with your tires.
It's looking a little cloudy out there, too. I don't know when rain is coming, but we're 1 lap in. Barney Goatmere still in P4. Gator up to P3. Red Potato down 5 positions already to P6. Lost them all on track. Hudson up 1 and Dago up 1. Dago is your race leader, but will most likely face some pressure with Hudson throughout this entire lap, as Gator will do his best to stay within the gearbox of Hudson so that when DRS is activated, they can do it. And there's a safety car. We missed something.
Yeah, there
BMF?
was contact in Big Mama Frank and Camel Straight. There was contact. Not sure with which driver. I lost it a little bit, but he's got no wing. That was a violent contact at 300 kilometers an hour there, so really high-speed contact. And I think safety car in that situation is his best bet. He's likely gonna be able to catch up to everybody afterwards because he's got major damage. So a lot of debris on the track on the first 2 laps in Division 1. Already 4 drivers that are losing it out, and a couple bumpers that have been laying on the side of the road so far.
Yeah, AlphaTauri with a tough race night so far. They qualified pretty well, at least Cal did. And it looks like they're kind of, they've both had incidents. So safety car comes at an okay time for Thermo. A little bit sooner, and he would have saved some time on the pit stop, but he'll get up to the rear of the field soon enough, so it's probably a wash. Big winners again. Ian Krieger up 7 spots to P5. Atlas up 6 to P9. Jack up 7 to P11. And sandwiched in between the Alfa Romeos is Peter Giordano, up 1 spot in the Ferrari in P10. So DRS enabled. That was a virtual safety car. So we're back green already. No gap for the DRS. Let's ride on with Gator as he tries to keep pace with Hudson and Dago as they're going to fight through Eau Rouge. Hudson just no fear, absolutely flat on those hard tires through Radeon. This is DRS only as he gets it ready. He thinks about it for a little bit second on the inside. And we saw an incident there in the real race with Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Not wanting to recreate that, Hudson backs off and Dago continues on with the lead into turn 10 of lap 3.
We're seeing Nizarki and the Haas also pitting for a bit damage. We got Big Mama Frank also pitting with damage there. Looking at the drivers so far, you know, Dago's under pressure from Hudson Pool. I mean, you know who you got behind you.
Yeah.
It could be a bit of a stressful moment, and I think that's Dago's the only way he's able to keep him away from him a little bit is having to use the ERS, and I think Hudson Pool's just playing the patient game, gonna let Dago use up that ERS to counter the DRS, and eventually Hudson Pool's just gonna go with it.
Yeah, both these drivers are pretty efficient at managing their battery. Dago's got 76% and Hudson Pool has 90%, right? Compared with Gator, who's fighting really hard just to keep up with Hudson, he's already half drained. So both the top 2 drivers are very similar in pace and very good at kind of managing their ERS through the lap. While we were talking about that, it looks like Barney did have an incident. Broadcaster's curse strikes again.
Yep.
He's down 10 spots in a P14. You hate to see it. You just hate to see it.
We talked about it earlier. It's a guy that's gonna have great qualifying, great race, and then I think he spun on. I don't know if it was contact, if he spun on his own, but sometimes he gets a little bit unlucky, and now he's gotta put his head down. There's still 16 laps to go, and 18 laps to go, and he's definitely got the pace to be able to bring that car up.
Yeah, he definitely does. I was on with Seb before, who had a really great battle with Cal. Cal was able to overtake, but Cal's also on stronger tire compound right now.
Big battle
So-
in P1, Dago and Hudson. Almost got taken over by Hudson Pool there. Dago's defending for his life at the moment. Hudson tried to go for the move, and you know, let's not ignore Gator in P3, who's really sticking behind those 2 drivers. So if Dago and Hudson start fighting, Gator's might try to go for a move.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like the clock is ticking for Gator too, right? He wants them to fight so much to slow him down, but you know, 3 laps on the medium tires is fine. He's still got the tire advantage. But with such a long lap here, I mean, you get to 5, 6, 7. The medium tires are not going to be better than the hards. So he's got to make a move now as Dago almost got a little bit loose. Dago almost got a little bit loose here going into turn 14. And Hudson wasn't able to take advantage yet. It looks like it's cleaned it up nicely. That would have been a hell of an incident.
There's a great three-way battle up front, and this battle is all over the track. It's hard to just keep our eyes everywhere, and this is what I love about Division 1 racing. Just like last weekend in Brazil, everywhere we looked, there was something happening, whether it be in the middle of the pack, in the back of the pack, or in the front.
Yellow in
Speaking
Sector
of-
3.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
it's
Alex Duarte who lost it.
Tough. Alex Duarte around. So here's Therma, who may be in a position to overtake Alex here along through up in the bus stop, and I may be too far away. But let's go back on with Hudson here. He's using some battery now. Thinking about making a push through Radeon Clean. There's the DRS. Does he do battery and DRS here to make a move? Or just use his DRS to get right up to the end of his gearbox and make sure he is glued to the back of Dago's car?
Well, great racing so far. So obviously, I think Pool is very confident about keeping Gator behind him. And as you mentioned, I think Gator's starting to feel the pressure. He's been using ERS a lot more than the first 2 drivers in front of him.
Yeah, he has been. I was on with Jack Pemberton real quick, who lost two positions in quick succession to Maxime Beaulieu and Duncan McCamick. Duncan got a little bit loose going into turn 9, where we've seen so many drivers take it. It looks like another Mercedes is around. That's Era. That's his second spin or incident of the race, I believe, as he gets passed by the McLaren of Alex Duarte. And there's another car around, and that's Jack. That's Jack. He must have lost it in Puhan.
A lot of
He was-
spins, and we're already seeing 3 drivers with 3-second penalties for cutting the track, and we're only lap 5. Alex Duarte, Era, and Big Mama Frank, who just is the latest one. So discipline and gotta be controlled at throttle, but sometimes their nerves get to you. And when you look at Dago in P1, you've got that, really the Hudson Hornet all over you on your rear, and that's an aggressive looking car. So sometimes the nerves get to you and throttle a little bit too hard. So
Yeah, a little bit
so
late
far,
braking
Dago's
there
been great. Yeah.
into turn 1. But I mean, that just goes to show how much you just got to stick with it, right? So Barney's already back up to P13. Cal's already back up to P12 after he had a lap 1 incident, right? And Hudson using a little bit of battery here. Is this where the move is going to happen? DRS, he's along the outside of Dago. He's going to be on the outside
There you
here
go.
through the Camel Straight, going into turn 7. It looks like he's got the move clear with room to spare. So he's made it. Now we'll see with clean air if Hudson can try to create a gap between him and Dago. Dago's managed his battery all right. He's at about 54. Hudson at 75. So the battery advantage for Hudson Pool. But Dago may look to make something happen. And he's going to have Gator hot on his tail for the next few laps.
Yeah, Gator's pushing it, giving it his all there. As much as pressuring his tires there and emptying his ERS. He's maybe the biggest loser of the three-way battle there. Hudson Pool got his move on Dago, and now Gator realizing that he's missed out on the possible opportunity there. So he's pressuring and trying to go after Dago now, but he's going to maybe run out of ERS, and eventually, as you mentioned before, his medium tires are going to cause him a little bit of issues.
Yeah, there's another incident. It might be Barney. Oh, he
That
spun
is
around
Barney.
again. That was actually his second spin. Looked like he was on hot tires, tried to get around quickly, and he's just having a hell of a time getting the car around, and that was something there. We'll go ahead and go to another driver. It's Alex Duarte in P15, who's recovered a little bit from his spin, but you just gotta keep it clean and consistent. And even if you have 1 or 2 incidents, you can get back up there. Hudson Pool sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:47.1.
Impressive time on the hard tires there. I think the DRS is where he made most of his time. Barney's tires are completely shot. He's trying to make it out of there, and he's found himself in gravel, having a little bit of difficulty there.
And another yellow. Looks like the Haas of Zarki is out in the middle of Sector 2.
Yeah.
We'll stay on here with Dago. Is the DRS enough to suction cup him to the rear wheels of Hudson Pool? Keeping it clean. The Ferrari of Peter Giordano just made a pass along the Camel Straight of the reserve Alfa Romeo of Atlas. Peter running a nice race so far. He's up 3 spots himself to P8. Quietly making himself up the field.
Noticing that Barney Goatmere went into the pits, as well as Era, and Era was missing a complete front wing. So although we didn't see, I'm wondering if that was an incident between both drivers there. Era seemed to have another moment, and now he's replaced his front wing, and he's just gonna go for a long shot with those medium tires.
Yeah, and it's tough for the tire strategy here too. I don't know if we maybe get some intel from the chat or from the paddock of when we could expect rain, right? But if they're going back on the medium tires, that means it's a little bit further off, right? Before anyone's thinking about a potential switch to intermediates. No rain yet, just cloudiness. Cal gets a 3-second penalty, and that'll hurt his chances at a strong recovery race.
Yeah, in regards to the weather, as we're seeing Hudson Pool keeping Dago a little bit away, and Gator's still slowly losing time behind the duo there, fighting up in front. But speaking of the weather, even the soft tires on this track, I mean, 1 lap on the soft tires take away 20% of your tires. So
Right.
in a racing condition, for qualities it's great, but in a racing condition it's not what you want, and the soft tires drop off so quickly. You have grip, and suddenly you have none. It's even worse than the hards and the mediums, in my opinion, depending on how hard you're pushing. So it's not, even if there was rain coming soon, I'd still go for the mediums in their situation.
Yeah. Penalties so far have made themselves known. This can be a tricky track with track limits. 5 drivers currently with 3 seconds. including Thermo, who is hoping to have a little bit better of a time than he did in Brazil last week. Let's keep an eye on Gator now and his battery. That gap has started to creep closer to 1 second. So I wonder if he's having a hard time now trying to keep up with these guys. Because you look at the battery and it just looks like on pure pace, Dago and Hudson are starting to pull away.
And it's not necessarily because Gator's slow. Obviously, his tires are maybe at the crossover point where the tires are
Could be.
less performant than the hard tires. But just Hudson Poole and Dago are at an incredible pace there up front. And shout out to Dago, who's been able to stick in the DRS zone of Hudson Poole for so long, so far. We thought, maybe Poole, once he gets up in front, he'll run away with it. That is not the case.
No, another yellow in sector 2/3. Looks like another Haas is around. That may be Zarky on new tires. Trying to get it happen. And now there's, I think there's a VSC. There's something.
Oh, full safety car, if I'm looking correctly. I think it's just coming out of the pits right now.
There it is. Full
Yep.
safety car. So Ian, Peter, Atlas, Maxime, Duncan, and Cal got really lucky because they were right there when it came out. So let's see what tires. So everybody except
Double stack
Cal
on the
that I just
Ferraris.
mentioned.
I think Peter Giordano lost a little bit of time going into the pits. There.
Oh, double
He
stack.
was the big winner. Yeah, they double stacked it, and Peter had to wait a little bit.
I think that's still offset from that. They were kind of lucky with the timing of when that safety car was announced. So I think that kind of offsets. It was definitely the right call to go in then. Fresh tires all around. As far as P7 on down. Looks
Now
like
the
Alex
question is, and I think Gator is going to be jumping into the pits. We were just talking about his tires. He's kind of getting close to the pit window. They're usually the pit window looking at maybe 10 laps, 10 to 12 laps. This is a little early. Now the other question we're wondering, you have the trio, we've got Poole, Dago, and Gator, who are following each other closely. Do they decide to go into pits right away and trade off some positions and for a race pace eventually? As Seb, unfortunately, under safety car situation, gets a 3-second penalty for
Yeah, I
cutting
hate
again.
to see that.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what the decision these guys are gonna make at 8 laps. Your hard tires are they're just there. They've definitely lost some of their peak performance, but not so much so. So, and again, the weather conditions is gonna throw a stick in the wheel, bicycle wheel in that kind of situation. So it might completely change strategies up.
We might see some gamesmanship here. I want to stick on with Gator so we can see what Hudson and Dago do around the bus stop chicane here to kind of gain some intel. And Gator's going right up to the end of Dago. What's going to go on? Is Hudson going in? They are going in, and Gator will follow suit. I thought for a second Hudson was going to feign it and then go back, but he didn't. And it looks like the top 6 are pitting. So Ian Krieger, who's quietly crept up the leaderboard throughout the entirety of this race, gets very, well, I don't want to say lucky, but very fortunate with the timing of the safety car, and he should effectively be leading this race. Something interesting though, John. Gator on the softs.
I'm shocked. I think he's going to go for positions up there, and he's thinking, 2, possibly 3 laps behind the safety car. He could keep the tires warm, and I think we're not so far away from the potential rain here.
Maybe that's it, right? It could be that, or maybe he doesn't think that. Well, he started on mediums, right?
He did. He hasn't touched his hards yet.
Right. So maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he thinks he's got to pit again. Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think it's weather.
I'm gonna toss a wire there to Division 1 engineers and see if they could give me some information in regards to the rain. And as soon as I get information, I'll relay it back to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. So Ian now on the hard tires. They're fresh, but I think he's gonna have trouble trying to make progress on Red Potato, Gator, Dago, and Hudson.
So I got some information pretty rapidly here from an Aston Martin engineer. We're talking about rain, potential rain in the next 10 to 13 minutes.
Okay.
So given that the lap times, I'm doing a little bit of math here, given that the math times are currently 148s, I would say 149s, and now we're under safety car conditions. I understand why Gator is gone on the softs. He might do 2, maybe 3 laps on the soft tires once the race starts again, and dive into the pits. We'll see how the weather goes for him.
Yeah, there's some chatter in the in the paddock too that maybe lap 18 is around. So yeah, I guess you could go 8 laps on softs when a couple of them are under safety car, right? You can get them warmed up nicely and then hopefully kind of ease into it a bit. We'll see if the safety car goes in this lap. This is usually when it calls.
I think they're gonna go another lap if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I agree. I
There's
think
a lot
so
of
too.
drivers still on the back. There's a lot of drivers. You know, when we spoke at the Gator was the only driver on softs. We're looking at Seb and the Haas. Both Haas went on the soft tires, including Era and the Mercedes in P20. Era's not having the race that he's had in Brazil. He's a little bit disappointed so far, but if weather conditions could favor him, you know, get as much pace as possible on the softs and be one of the early drivers on the intermediates once the rain comes, can make up a lot of positions on the undercut here in Spa. The weather undercut here will be very powerful.
Yeah, it would be powerful. The soft tire runners may be in a good position here, and of course this one, I think you're alluding to it. The safety car lap takes so much more time too, right? So not only will their tire wear be better, but we'll get to the rain sooner as far as lap count. So just because this one will be so slow. So let's hop in with the big winners and the big losers so far. We've touched on a little bit. Barney, very unfortunate. He finds himself down 14 places to P18 after a couple incidents, and Era down 12 into P20. So rough day so far for the Williams and the Mercedes drivers, respectively. Big winners so far, up 7 spots. Ian Krieger quietly up in P5. We really haven't spoken about Ian too much so far. Atlas, the Alfa Romeo Reserve, up 7 spots himself, and they are the biggest winners so far in the race. Other than that, not too much shuffling, save for the few outliers that have had incidents here and there.
Yeah, we had Jack Pemberton, potential driver of the day already, given that it's his last race in ZRL for a while. He went up we saw him up all the way up to P10 at some point.
We did.
Had a bit of a spin-off, and we see him in P14, but that's still up on 4 positions from when he started in P18. So, you know, he's also the kind of guy that, you know, qualities sometimes aren't always his forte, but once he gets his head down and goes in the race, he's able to make up on some positions, and I'm expecting him to make some gains there again.
Yeah, now he's got 2-lap-old medium tires behind Alex Duarte and the McLaren on 10-lap-old hards. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's looking to push through Alex pretty quickly and see if he can use that momentum to get Cal as well. Now restarts can be a little hairy here with the bus stop chicane. I initially want to hop on with Red Potato to see if we can maybe get a good view of how the top 3 drivers are going to try to gain this. And then I want to go on with Gator because I think he's going to make a push here.
Yeah.
For the lead.
Yeah, as
Or
you
at least
mentioned
attack
about
the
stop chicane, it's a tricky spot to restart if the lead driver pushes it at that point. Most drivers behind, and the cars are not peak performance at that point, so could see some spin-offs there and a little bit of change in the positions.
Trying to get the last bit of heat into their tires. Here's Hudson Poole. We can see it looks like he goes through
There you go.
pretty clean. Not a lot going on there, just getting through. Gator dumping some battery. He's got the soft tires. He's going to try to make a run on Dago and Hudson Poole. He didn't get as good of an exit. Here we are through turn 1. No DRS here for another 3 laps. Gator going to try to make the most of his tire strategy here. Try to make a push. There's already a 7/10 gap between him and Dago, between P2 and P3. Hudson's opened up half a second. I don't think they're going to have this space or the power to make it through the Kemmel Straight and get up to the back. So already a gap forming. Gator needs to push extremely well. He may be able to make up some more here in sector 2.
Yeah, it may take him a couple corners for Gator's tires to come alive and be fully prepped there on the softs and peak performance. And that's where it may be catch him some time for Dago. We see another Haas again, and that's an actual DNF from Zarki, so that's race over for him.
Race over for Zarki. I hate to see it again. Turn 789 has claimed another victim. We saw it through D2, 3, and 4 races is we have another full safety car, presumably due to Zarki's DNF. Now, I don't see a lot of drivers maybe going in at this point. I mean, if you're Alex Duarte, the field is so jumped up. If you go in, you're gonna be at the end, right? You're gonna be in the back. So
Yeah, and with the rain coming in, that's. But he had a terrible race restart. He figured it out right on the first corner. He got overtaken by Cal and Jack and lost 2 positions and had a lot of difficulty getting the throttle on his tires. So 11 old laps hards there. You got to be careful a little bit with how you drive the car and another safety car situation. So we'll see. And now with the time we've been losing in regards to race pace versus safety car pace, I'm wondering if the rain is not going to start peaking in. We don't know exactly when it's going to come. It's supposed to be going in. We should be having it in 6 minutes. So that puts us, depending if safety car does 2 or 3 laps, that puts us just on the cusp of safety car release and doing a restart and then potentially having rain. And
now
speaking of rain, Era P19 pits in and he's on the inters right now.
wow. I wonder if we're just not seeing it yet or what.
I think when it's gonna happen very suddenly. Let's not forget that this is a very large track, so we might see some areas start getting rain and some other areas be dry a little bit. It might take a moment before the whole track gets wet. And Era, you know, he's P19, and I mean,
Got to make a move.
balls of steel. He's really looking for a Hail Mary situation here. He's hoping that the rain comes sooner than later. If it does come sooner, he'll be able to have the undercut, and we'll see how it goes. But if this safety car does restart and he's stuck come down dry weather with the inters, I mean, he can't go further down than 19, so it can't get any worse for him.
Yeah, he's definitely got to make a move. Now, does the safety car have to do at least 2 laps, or can it come in after 1? The field's already pretty bunched up. I wonder if it can get away with just 1, or if just in the game it has to do 2.
Well, I guess we're going to find out. And the other thing is, not only is he on terrible tires, but I think with the race delta, I think Era will take a little bit of time for him to catch up. Well, he's catching up in the next 2 corners there. So I think we might see an earlier race restart. And if that's so, that'll be catastrophic for Era.
Yeah, Era wants as many safety car laps as possible, and he wants that rain to come in ASAP. I haven't seen any drops on the halos or anything like that, or the car. Nothing.
So far, nothing. But we're very close to it, you know. We're being the whole lap. If you look at Hudson's pole time leading the pack, it's we're coming in at what 2 minutes 40-ish seconds behind the safety car, and I don't see a notice that the safety car is going in, so we're following it for another lap. So chances are we just might see the first raindrops coming in during the safety car.
I'm with Gator here, and initially you're thinking, man, this is great for the soft tire runners, but if it doesn't rain, those medium tire runners can most certainly get to the end, because it was a little bit questionable when they went in. After starting on the hards, having to pit a little bit early compared to that strategy. So, I wonder if the rain holds out, the medium tires may be lucky, but for all the intel we have, it's going to rain.
Yeah, so far that's what we're expecting. But I totally agree. If it doesn't rain, it's going to be catastrophic for our soft tire runnings. I think medium tires will definitely run all the way till the end there. It might be a little bit slippy in the last couple laps, and so far this weekend in our... Am I seeing the first drops of rain? Yeah.
Is that it?
We're
That might be it.
at the end of Camel Straight. Yeah, definitely. So we're starting to see the first drops here, and this
I
has
want-
allowed the safety car might be coming in.
Maybe that was the biggest brain move from Eric Carvalho. If everybody goes in now for intermediate tires, Era will be up towards the front.
Right, it's starting
Wow.
to come down rather. It's
There
very
it is.
sudden. That is very sudden. You're already seeing the track.
There it is.
Yeah, very wet. Now the question
Wow.
is what kind of weather we're getting? Are we getting intermediate weather or wet tires?
Talk about a big brain move, Ranger. Wow.
If that could be a great move for Era. I was very curious to see where it's gonna go. So I mean, he went for the Hail Mary and he wanted the range sooner than later, and he did get it sooner as he wanted. So that's definitely gonna give him a great recovery chance for his race there. And the other thing we could be talking about is car setup. You know, we've seen low downforce, high downforce. The rain is going to mix everything up at this moment. All those racers with very low downforce. I mean, we've seen setups with as low going
There's
as low
an
as
incident.
4.2.
Sorry, there's an incident under safety car.
Yep.
So it looks like those conditions are
that.
getting a lot worse very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Can't even get around.
Winner just hit Era behind a safety car, so that's gonna. I don't know if he clipped his wing there doing that.
Eric hit Era.
Yeah, that's gonna be something that's gonna be looked at
Wow.
soon enough. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but
Here we go on the
The
restart. I
drivers,
think we're all expecting everybody to come in here. There'll be a couple double stacking, and yep, they're all in.
that's such a tight.
Everybody
corner.
in.
Pulled
The
his
Alfa Romeo
range
goes a little
wall.
bit wide going into the pits. And let's hop in with Eric Carvalho as he gets
He
to
is
pass everybody
climbing.
in the pits and go P19 to P1 in the matter of 1 lap.
And he's the one to restart the race. And what do you know? You have a Mercedes restarting a race all alone. It reminds us of the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2021, if I believe.
Yeah,
last
we
year.
actually have someone on full wets. Cal
2 drivers.
has put on full wets, and so has Big Mama Frank. 2 drivers on full wets, but potentially more rain coming. So what we initially thought was super big rain strats by Era, he may have to come in for wet tires along with, well, most of the field. So let's watch that delta between Cal and Maxime and see how that fares to see if we can get a sense of wets versus inters.
You know, there's 7 laps to go in this race, and it's far from over. So much could happen. I'm seeing an Alpine that seemed to have a moment out, and I think that's Red Potato who's
Red
dropping
Potato.
on the grid.
That's Red Potato tumbling down the grid. He will settle in P13 for now. We're on with Cal, as it looks like that delta has increased so far. Let's hop on with Duncan McCamick then and see if he can start to close that gap a little bit. I think it's still intermediate weather. You can see that
Yeah, it looks very
that delta's
slippery on the
falling.
wets. Yeah, the tire temps and the type of weather currently is not best for the wets, but if it suddenly rains even more and we could expect the last 4 or 5 laps of wets, then maybe at that point it will have a turn out of events for Big Mama Frank and Cal. Both AlphaTauri drivers went it all in that situation, so they're quite confident in regards to their strategy.
Yeah, they are. So I wonder, you know, yeah, if Cal's thinking I'll lose pace for 2 laps, but then I'll save an entire pit stop and be able to finish the race on these wets. Maybe that's what he's thinking. Hudson with a 4-second gap now to Era. He'll look to chip that down. Dago is 8/10 behind him. Gator over a second now. DRS range doesn't really matter here. I don't think the rain is going to stop anytime soon. So if you're going to do any overtakes, it's got to be on pure pace. A little bit of jumbling in the order here into turn 1 at the back of the grid. Barney finds himself in P17. Alex at the 16 and Jack at P15. I think Jack may have had a little bit of an incident as he went down a couple spots. And the Alpines find themselves next to each other, Red Potato and Thermo, but not where they wanted.
Let me tell you, having done qualifying in wet conditions, that turned into intermediate conditions near the end of the qualifying. Turn 7, 8, 9 in the whole Lecombe section is brutal on the tires, and especially if you have low downforce. So some drivers are really just tiptoeing on their throttle there, just trying to keep the car stable.
Yeah, there's another yellow in sector 2. I don't know who's around.
Jack.
Oh, it's Jack. Jack's around on the inters, trouble finding some grip here in the conditions. Let's look to get back up to speed quickly. Cal right now losing a little bit of ground to Duncan, but he may be playing the long game. That 4-second gap, or rather 4.7-second gap, is now 4 seconds. Hudson Poole to Era for the lead of the race. Now Era's got a penalty. Let's take a look at that. It's 3 seconds. So I don't know if it's going to get removed. We'll have to see. It could be just a standard track limits, as it looks like... for a second I thought someone went into the pits. I thought maybe it was Era, but he didn't. As Hudson starts to chip away at Era's lead. But it's not wet conditions yet, Ranger. You can see that gap between Duncan and Cal has started to increase.
Most definitely. Yeah, and these guys are just like Era went on a hope and a prayer there. I think both AlphaTauri drivers are doing the same thing. The wet tires are not helping either of them right now, and they also have penalties, so that could affect them as well.
Peter went in to put a fresh set of intermediate tires on, or I guess he maybe needed a wing change. Maybe he had damage and we didn't see it, because that was quite a long stop. Gap starting to form here. There's a little bit of a battle for P7. Maxime and Aaron Altmaier in the Aston Martin. That gap is ever shrinking. Went from a few tenths down to 4. It was down to 2 tenths at one point. See if Maxime can make something happen.
Over the back of it. And Piero Giordano just caught himself cutting the track again with the 3-second penalty, and suddenly in the last 5 laps of this race, he's got himself a damage and now a 3-second penalty. So not the combo you want to hit.
Another close battle on the grid is Seb, hot on the tail of Cal in P10. Seb on what looks like the better tires right now, so I wonder if that gap is going to continue to shrink. That is probably the closest we're going to see to an overtake here, unless Maxime can gain some ground on grass.
Yeah, looking at Cal drive, I feel his rears. Looking at his rear, just looks loose. He's kind of correcting as he just did there. He's constantly got to correct himself when he goes on the throttle on the wet. So conditions so far not favoring the wet tires.
Seb navigating Blanchimont very well in the intermediate tires. He's closed that gap nicely right on the gearbox of Cal. And if this tire strat's going to pay off, it's got to do something quick. I think they're at the point now, if any drivers want to switch from inters to wets, it just won't make sense. They won't gain enough time with 4 laps to go to make that worth it. There's another yellow.
Yeah, that's Jack.
Jack around the bus stop.
I also saw Piero Giordano kind of almost losing it out of the chicane, so I'm wondering if are we eventually looking at a crossover between the wets and the inters at this point? I mean, Sam has not been able to make a move on Cal so far, and he's even further behind him.
Yeah, that gap too between Cal and Duncan has increased as well. Is that Seb?
Seb's lost it. I don't know. He's in the wall. He's got damage, but we're not looking at a safety car here. He's still in the race.
No safety car. Seb was up making a respectable finish as he can't. Oh, and he just destroys his wing trying to get back on the track before turn 10. And there it is.
Triggered the safety car.
That is the safety car.
The fans are
so we should see a wet restart.
Absolutely going for that piece of wing that's over there. Bring a souvenir home.
Huh.
And
Seb gets a drive
penalty, speeding under safety car. And there was a driver right behind in front of him. I think his Bimba Frank was completely stopped in the track, and now Seb's lost it again.
Yeah, Maxime was also closing a gap really nicely to Aaron, or at least trying to, and it looked like we could have seen an overtake possibility there. But we should have 2 laps of green flag racing when it's all said and done. Nobody going in for wet tires. Oh, save for Maxime, who goes in for something, right? Speaking of the devil, Maxime going in. Interesting call. He'll lose a ton of positions here, unless others are following
Duncan is
suit.
also going in. Thermal's going in. They're going for the wet tires, so I think they're expecting the conditions to get worse very quickly.
Wow.
So we got P8 all the way to P13, a red potato as well, going into the pits.
Yeah, it's almost like they were kind of following Maxime's suit. If Maxime didn't go out, I wonder if we would see that many drivers go in.
I'm quite sure we would have seen. I know Duncan's got a mind of his own, and he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I think as the race was going on, the drivers were realizing the Inters were losing grip, and it seems as they lost grip very, very quickly, and drivers don't want to be caught out there. At the end of the day, these guys might want to sacrifice maybe track position for just finishing the race overall, because right now we're seeing a lot of drivers leaving debris out on the field, and Big Mama Frank with a drive throughs or speeding on their safety car.
Yeah, these deltas.
A lot of penalties as
tough.
well are gonna most definitely they're gonna try affect the ending grid here.
Yeah, let's take a look at the penalties now. We click. So 3 drive-throughs so far. Jack Pemberton, Seb, and Big Mama Frank, all with drive-throughs, presumably for speeding under the safety car. 3-second penalties scattered around the field. Peter Giordano with 6 seconds, although I did hear that may have been a double warning. So we could see 6 seconds removed from Peter's penalties. I don't know about the status of the others. We're on with Hudson, who's behind the safety car. Presumably one more lap of safety car. So we'll have to see.
Presumably that would mean that we'd only have maybe half the pack to be able to restart. We're seeing Peter Giordano and Seb pitting for wets, and they might not have the time to catch up to the safety car.
Yeah, well, we were paying attention to Max going into the pits and all the wet tire changes. I'm hearing that Hudson may have nicked Era, and now we can see Era down in P7. So he was leading the race. He was what looked like on a good tire strategy until it started to rain even harder. So let's see if the leaders decide to go in the pit. Let's hop in with Gator again, something we've done, I think, 3 times now on safety car restarts, and see if he just plays a little follow the leader here. A lot of track position in 2 laps, and yeah, they're going to try to make it happen.
I think it's too late to change for the wet tires at this point for most of the drivers. I believe Era's in the pits.
I wonder if he may have
keep
had
an
damage.
eye on him, see if he's got damage. Yeah. Oh yeah, he does have damage. He's missing the right end plate on his front wing. So, oh, Era, what a
wing change for
roller
Era.
coaster of a race for him.
Tough.
Went from P19 to P1 on the absolutely crazy call for the wet tires, and instead of Hudson Pools costing him wing damage here and potential race win even, or probably P2 because he's got that penalty he had.
Era will come out. Looks like in front of Big Mama Frank. I don't know if Big Mama Frank can make that happen, but Era is now in P14 on the fresh wets, so middle of the pack. We're on with Cal right now, who could be on presumably the better tire, looking like full wet conditions, with 6 drivers ahead of him on 5-lap-old Inters. So that wet tire strategy, Cal was playing the long game. Now the safety car made it a little bit different, so we'll see what happens there. Looks like Aaron Altmaier and Ian kind of switched positions there. That may have been a little bit of safety car shenanigans.
It's very greasy out there for those intermediate tires at the moment. I think we're seeing standing water, and most drivers switching to the wets there. So we're going to see the top 6 drivers going to have to be very careful on how they drive their car, but at the same time they're racing for a win there. So we're gonna, there's gonna have 2 laps of absolutely insanity, I believe, once the safety car goes in. With a soup at the end of this lap. It's got to be.
It's got to be it. I see that Haas is at the back of Seb. That's pretty far off. And it'll take him longer to catch up, of course, in the conditions. I'm hoping we can get 2 laps of green racing here. We'll see if the safety car goes in.
Yep.
Yep, in this lap.
Here we go. A 2-lap sprint race in Spa in a questionable wet condition. Anything could happen at this point.
Always 2 laps of racing, I'm hearing. Thank you for the information. Always 2 laps of racing. Safety car is in no matter what. We'll hop on with Gator again to observe Hudson and Dago on the restart as we see if It was pretty smooth the first time around. We'll see if we see anything fishy here from the
Dago's
leaders.
so aggressive out there on the back of Hudson Pool. He wants to go.
He is, and Hudson starts it, but Hudson looks like he maybe pulls away. A little bit of wheel spin on Dago, and he has to overcorrect. I wonder if Gator can take advantage. He's too far back to do it. Someone was in the wall. I'm not sure who did you say was?
Yeah, Max and Bollier and the Merc. We lost it on the straight.
Max in the wall. Cal's tire strategy now, reaping some rewards. He flies by Ian Krieger. He could really get the power down a lot quicker. He's coming up to the Camel Straight. Jason Pelter goes wide. The Gator was in P3, now in P4. Man, that podium just keeps slipping away from Gator.
Again.
And Cal's tire strategy looks very strong right now. He gained a lot of time in just that sequence of track.
That could have hurt the drivers in front so bad. Cal goes P3 right in front of Duncan, and he's going for Dago there. It's not working on the intermediate tires, and you got 2 laps to go. Cal,
it's not.
won D3. He did an amazing performance in D2, and look at him right beside Hudson Pool. He's looking at a potential Division 1 win.
He is. I'm on with Duncan McCamick too. There's action all over the front. Duncan, hopefully he's got a podium in his sights. Dago cuts him off very nicely. A little bit of contact. I wonder if there could have been wing damage. Dago goes to the left. He's passed. Hudson Pool comes in. He's in P3. And Thermo comes out of nowhere in P2. And this podium has all been shaken up because of the tire strategy.
Oh, there's been contact. Hudson Pool's in the wall.
Hudson to the wall. Dago falling down to P8. And the intermediate tires are just not doing it. Cal is in the lead of this race, followed by Thermo. And wouldn't you know it, Barney Goatmere in the Williams, currently in line for a podium.
We literally just saw the whole grid switch around in a matter of half a lap.
It just
The lap
inverted.
is not over yet. We still got a whole lap of racing to go. And we're seeing Alex Duarte, who's dropping down the grid, and a couple drivers losing it there. All the intermediate drivers had lost so much pace to the wet tires there. Now the wet drivers literally just came running in the back of the pack of the intermediates. That's where we saw an incident, I believe. Diego got bumped into Hudson, and that's where both drivers dropped down that way.
They were tumbling. There's a yellow in Sector 3. That's Jack Pemberton on the intermediate tires, trying to make them work. Thermo rather, trying to make a little switchback in turn 1. Doesn't happen. Maxime finds himself back up in P5. Peter Giordano back up in P6. This tire strategy is shaking things up. And look at Big Mama Frank in P9, looking for a really strong D1 finish for him. Maybe his best ever.
What a catastrophic finish for some of those drivers that were up there in intermediates. And this race has gone absolutely berserk. We're seeing Cal so far. He's got Thermo red hot on his tail, and Thermo's going to give it all the beans to catch up to Cal and overtake him. Yeah,
penalties galore. The grid has essentially just totally inverted. All the intermediate tire runners had got in. Atlas essentially bailed and went into the pits. He's now on fresh wet tires. He'll try to salvage a top 10 finish, as Big Mama Frank may have had an incident himself. No, he just gets past as he tries to keep facing the wet weather. A lot of action going on there. Let's hop in with the Alfa Romeo Reserve Atlas, who's trying to make a double overtake, but Dago cuts him off on the inners, still making him work as he gets bumped from behind. Dago's around.
Dago's lost, and I think I saw some debris out there, so somebody's got damage. I believe that's the front wing of Dago who lost the end plate there.
Someone's got damage as Duncan has overtaken Barney Goatmere for P3. Barney's still in P4. Very respectable finish. Duncan in line for a podium. Is that what's going to happen now? Let's take a look at penalties. The top 3 drivers all have 3 seconds.
Thermal's all over the back of Cal, going through the Blanchement, coming out there at the bus stop chicane, so it's going to happen.
He tries to make it happen on the
outside. On the outside.
It's a last turn pit, a little bit of a bump. He bumps the Alpha Tauri. Thermo currently in P1. Is he going to cross the line?
No way. Cal loses it completely.
Cal
loses
it.
Line? He's not.
Spins around. He hadn't crossed the line. He tumbles to P7. Currently your podium. Thermo, your race winner at P1. Maxime P2. Red Potato somehow finds himself in P3. Duncan P4. And Barney with the recovery of the century in P5 for the Williams.
Absolute insanity of the race. We're looking at Hudson Pool being P14, so that's going to be a bit of a disappointment strategy-wise for him. I think we're seeing most of the fastest drivers on the back of the bottom 10 and reserve drivers and great recovery race for Barney, and Peter Giordano having a great race himself as well, going in P6. That's a great win for Thermo, who we're gonna be very honest. I never saw that one coming out of nowhere in the last two laps. He went for it.
He went for it. It was a great win for Thermo, but I think it's going to have a second look. Cal ran out
Most
of room there
definitely.
very quickly, and it caused a catastrophic incident for him. I mean, he was in line for a podium, and he finds himself in P7. So, what an end to this race. Just the action, the tire strategy. Man, in the wet, it was a little bit of follow the leader there before that last safety car job, but whew, that finish was something.
That was a very good finish, and let me tell you, Thermo last weekend we started from the back of the pack because of a previous incident with Duncan in Australia. Finds himself already once again in a win. We talked about him needing a great recovery race for Alpine. He does it under controversy once again, so we're gonna hear about it all week in Discord, and this is far from over for this Division One season. That's for sure.
Let's see if we can get these guys into the waiting room. And the
Maybe we'll be
paddock
able
is
to
going
share a
crazy.
word with Jack Pemberton as well.
Yeah, we'll try to get Jack in here too on his last race as well. There you have it, folks. That was probably the most action I've seen at the end of the race in quite some time. Mixed conditions, different tire strategies. Oh, that was about as exciting as I've ever heard. We got Red Potato currently in the waiting room. He found a P3, so we wait for Maxime and Thermo to trickle in, and hopefully Jack Pemberton as well. John, let's bring Red Potato in here. Red Potato, another podium. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great job, man. I mean, it was just kind of a crazy end of the race. What was your take on tire strategy as that rain was coming? Um, you made it work at the end. We saw you at the front. We saw you at the back. Hell of a recovery.
Yeah, I was honestly wasn't expecting the race to go into the rain. I did see in the weather report that 45 minutes in it would start raining, but I didn't expect two or three safety cars that we had that delayed the race so much, and it ended up in the rain territory. I was hoping that the race would finish before that, so I was running a really low down for setup. So as soon as it started raining, I just as you saw, I fell down the grid. I was horrible on inters, but then um, on the last safety car, I made the call to go into wets, and I think the first half, the top six didn't go onto the wet, so that kind of worked out, and then there was a whole mess of people.
Yes.
It's gonna be a tough day for stewards starting through all of those incidents, but yeah, it worked out for me.
Can definitely agree with you. I read Potato as a steward myself. Already seeing a number of tickets appearing on the tickets channel. So yeah, the positions are going to be revised, and I looked into that. On your end, congratulations for the podium there. So we saw you have a great race in Brazil last week and starting pole position, and the beginning of the race didn't go the way you wanted. How do you feel? Did you change in any way you prepared yourself this week? And did you think about that incident of last weekend and trying to uh, not have that being recreated this weekend?
Yeah, I kind of went in the opposite direction. Learning from last week, I was too cautious on the first lap. That ended up costing me a bunch of positions. I will also say that I'm not really used to the kind of really hard driving that we have here. I expected people to just it's going to be a DRS train anyway, but
Hmm.
yeah, some drivers like to take a lot of risks on that first lap, which I wasn't really expecting. Going too wide into Eau Rouge, that it took me by surprise, and I ended up losing a bunch of positions there. But um, yeah, it's something I need to work on my race pace, especially the first few laps. I think I do consider myself a bit of a quali specialist. So I need to convert that into a better race pace, so that I can convert some of these pole positions into wins.
Red Potato, it was great having you on board, man. I hope you stick around for a while. It's been great kind of watching you keep pace with our D2 and D1 guys. Thanks a lot, man. Maybe we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to Red Potato. Let's bring in P2 Maxime.
Rising up. Oh.
Hey, Maxime, sorry, we just pulled you in. Welcome, dude. Congrats on the P2. Hell of a finish there. First podium in a little while. Is this your first podium this season?
Yes.
Well, congratulations, man.
What a race too, because I qualified what, P13? Oh my
I think
god.
so. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of kind of action, a lot of different tire strategies. What was your take kind of with the weather change and that end safety car, and what was your thought process?
Uh, None of it helped me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Be- like I was gonna finish like P10, without everything that happened final 2 laps. Uh, at the last safety car, I almost binned it. I went into the wall. I got damaged, and yeah. Uh,
Yeah, we saw it. I mean, that was kind of a crazy ending to the race. Era had some issues too at the end. It looked like for a second he was on the big brain strat, right? I mean, he went from P19 to P1 within the span of
yeah,
a straightaway, right?
yeah.
And when he was on the inters, I mean, were you guys communicating? Was it? It looked extremely tough for him to keep pace.
Uh, when we were on the inters, he kept saying that he was losing pace to Hudson. But I told him to keep going, keep on track. And yeah, unfortunately, the safety car incident happened
Yeah.
with Rhapsody. But yeah, it was a good race overall.
Maxime, after the second safety car, we've seen you, as you mentioned, scrape the wall a little bit on the restart, but very quickly catch up to the drivers up front and on the intermediates. So, how was it catching all up to them? Because what we noticed is all the drivers on wet tires caught up to the front runners, and they kind of had a bit of a mashup there. So, was it a bit of luck that you got out of there unscathed, or was there a bit of just go walk us through that whole end of the race, the last 2 laps?
So I saw that it was getting wetter, so I pitted for the wet, and I was like net P1, with the wet. Um, and then yeah, like I almost DNF'd at the safety car restart, and everyone overtook me. I went down to like P14, and then I saw that everyone ahead were like taking each other out like off road, so I just raced past, like overtook everyone, and on the final lap, I saw that